Hello, everyone. Welcome. This is Sankofa Video Books and Cafe. We are located in Washington, D.C. I am Christina Joy. I'm the events coordinator here at Sankofa. I'm actually upstairs at Sankofa right now. Downstairs, it's a little too loud to have this kind of conversation. But tonight, thank you for joining us for our talk with the author of Black Women's Wellness, Dr. Melody T. McCloud. This is the book in its physical form right here. It's gorgeous. We were actually just talking about how gorgeous it is. And this is the book we're talking about tonight. And so, Dr. McCloud, please introduce yourself. Tell people where you're from and how you became a doctor.
Oh, well, first of all, thank you for having me, Christina. I appreciate it. And hello to everyone in the Sankofa listening audience. I'm glad to be here. I am a native of New York City. And my story is a little bit interesting, quite honestly. I never knew any of my grandparents. I had an absentee father. I was raised by a single mother. Um, a latchkey kid, grew up really pretty poor. And anyway, long story short, but one of the things that I think inspired me to be a physician is that I actually had a Black female pediatrician when I was a little girl. And we're talking about way back in a long, long time ago. You guys probably weren't even born at that time or weren't even thought about. um, but yeah, I had a Black female pediatrician, Dr. Doris Weathers, no A, Wethers. And I remember I used to love to go to her office. And at the time, doctor's offices smelled like rubbing alcohol. That was how it just smelled, like a fresh, clean rubbing alcohol scent years ago. And for some reason, I just loved to be in there and have this medicinal smell. And also, I did remember uh, hearing that she helped people feel better. And I think that just kind of had an impact on me.
Mhm.
Um, so that was kind of, I guess, a little bit, I saw it, in her, and I was like, oh, I could be that. And so that was kind of the a little initial impulse for me to be interested in medicine for some reason. It just really seemed like a good thing to try to help people. And I will say, when I got into high school, um, the intersection of my health classes and also my faith, when I
Mhm.
learned how babies were born, like a sperm and an egg get together and make a baby, I was like, wow, I want to be a part of that. That was like a miracle. So I think that had something to do with all of that.
Wow. First of all, that's amazing that you had a Black female doctor as a child. Like
We're,
that's
we're, we're talking. I don't mind telling you. I mean, I'm 67 years old. Okay, so it could. She was. This is. We talk about in the 50s and 60s. I had
wow.
a Black, and she was a pioneer at Yale School of Medicine. Okay. And also, she did a lot of wonderful work with sickle cell anemia. And if you Google her, again, Dr. Doris Weathers, no A, she was a wonderful pioneer. And as a Black female physician back in that day, and it's her story is just stunning. And, and, and also, too, one other thing, when I was in high school, I remember my high school history teacher, who was also the vice principal, she told my mother at the end of a PTA meeting, make sure she takes typing because Black people don't become doctors. But I already knew better because I had Dr. Weathers.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So it was like, thank God for Dr. Weathers, because I could have let Miss Stacks, Joan Stacks, I could have let her words discourage me, but they didn't. I looked to Dr. Weathers, and because I could see it, I felt I could be it.
Wow. Wow, that is literally the best story of representation matters I've ever heard in my life. Like, wow. That is amazing. And
Yeah.
God, these teachers, they
Yeah, well, that's what I can, and even when every time I tell people that story, even right now, I still, it makes me cringe. I mean, she's like, make sure she takes typing because Black people don't become doctors. I mean, that is verbatim. Okay, that's a direct quote from
right.
that I remember from when I was in high school.
And it's like similar to you, Malcolm X, with his eighth grade teacher telling him that Black people can't become lawyers, and this is why he went down this dark path for a while, and then turned his life around after coming out of prison. But it's like that changed his entire trajectory because of that negative statement. And you could have went the other way as easily if you didn't have that representation. So it's like this.
I am very grateful to Dr. Weathers. I mean, trust me, I really, really am.
All right. So thank you, Dr. Weathers.
Yeah, really. May she rest in peace. She died a few years ago, and the New York Times wrote a beautiful obituary about her. So, yeah, check her out, Dr. Doris Weathers.
Dr. Doris Weathers. Thank you, Black Doc. Actually, that brings me to my first question about your book. You had in the introduction, you wrote about the first Black woman doctor. Am I correct?
First, yeah, the first Black female physician, yes.
Yeah. So, could you tell us more about that? Why did you choose to open up with that?
Well, one again, she too is her story is little known. Okay, it's not as well known as it should be, and I'm working to advance her story and get it out there. The person I'm speaking of is Dr. Rebecca Lee Crumpler, and I give presentations about her story because as the Civil War raged in 1864, Rebecca Lee became Dr. Rebecca Lee when she graduated from what is now Boston University School of Medicine, which ironically is where I ended up going to medical school. But I didn't know about Rebecca at the time that I matriculated in college or medical school. I didn't know about her story at that time. But yeah, well, in 1864, she graduated. And her thing is that, speaking of role models, she was born in Delaware. She was raised by her aunt, who gave care to sick people in the community. Wow. And Rebecca was impressed, and that made some kind of impression on her. So she later left Delaware, went to Boston, and worked as a nurse in a hospital. And the doctors with whom she worked were so impressed by her skill and her patient care and her intellect that they suggested and recommended that she go to that she apply to medical school. And she did, and she was accepted. And at the time, the school was called the New England Female Medical College, and it later became Boston University School of Medicine. So she, again, in 1864, graduated from there and became the first Black female physician in the U.S. Okay. Wow. And what's so courageous about this woman, she's more courageous than I think I could have been. When the war ended in 1865, she didn't stay in Boston. She realized that there was a great need for medical care in the South. So she actually uprooted and went to Virginia. And by that time, she was married to Arthur Crumpler, so Dr. Rebecca Lee Crumpler. She went to Virginia to take care of recently freed slaves that the white doctors refused to touch. Okay. Wow. Which is exemplary. And she's out there in tent camps and in dire conditions. And also from my research, I've learned that some hospitals at the time refused to admit her patients or refused to give her admitting privileges to admit patients. Some of the pharmacists didn't want to honor her prescriptions. And also I was told, or I read, that some people said that the MD behind her name stood for mule driver. Not MD medical doctor, but stood for mule driver. So you're talking about microaggressions back then. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So she has a stunning story. And then after she was there for about 3 years, she actually left there and went back to Boston. She set up her practice, lived above her practice. And then later she also wrote a book, which you may have heard of that book, What to Expect When You're Expecting. Her book was like a precursor or a template for that book. Yep.
What?
Who knew?
What?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yes. Yeah. And it's like these little nuggets that we don't hear about, no one tells. So I'm really trying to get her story out there. So thanks for letting me share that little bit about her. But yeah, she wrote a book.
Wow.
And, yeah.
Wow. I had no idea that is like the most popular pregnancy book like ever.
Ever. And it's and the research is that it was based, her book, a book of medical discourses in 2 parts, was dedicated to the health of women and children. And it basically served as a template for what to expect when you're expecting.
Wow. Wow. Let me
Dr. Rebecca Lee Crumpler.
Wow.
And she did not get a headstone until a couple of years ago. Neither she nor her husband had a headstone. And she had been buried for 125 years without a headstone. But We were able to get a headstone for her. So now she and Arthur Crumpler now have a headstone up there in Massachusetts.
Wow. It's like this kind of work is so important because if we don't honor these ancestors, who will? Like no one. No one would know about her. Like at all. And the fact that she made the template for one of the most popular pregnancy child rearing books ever created, like that book is everywhere. Everywhere.
Last night I was watching CBS 60 Minutes with Bill Whitaker, and he did a thing about the history makers of Black history makers. And I was thinking, my God, I would love to get Dr. Crumpler's story on there, but she's deceased now, so I don't even know how that could possibly be. But
Right.
maybe whoever, if I get in
Maybe
touch with
some
it.
descendants,
Huh?
maybe some her descendants if she had any.
There aren't any.
God.
Yeah. So right now, I and some other people, we're really trying to, and also there is the other sad thing is there is no confirmed photograph of her. Like if you Google her name, all these different people pop up, but they're not her. There's no
Wow.
photograph. We've looked everywhere at the church she used to go to. I have a description of her from the Boston Globe, but there is no known certifiable photograph of Rebecca Lee Crumpler. So, but
Oh,
we're doing the best we can in the absence thereof.
wow. That is incredible. Like that you're doing this work for her because
Yeah.
people need to know this. That is like Black women been out here doing everything for everyone.
So that's why I wanted to start with her because again, and that was her story then, and then of course we know about civil rights matriarchs that we've had, and I've been honored to actually take care of some of those women. Thank goodness. May they rest in peace. Lillian Lewis, John Lewis, Representative John Lewis's wife, and Juanita Abernathy, Reverend Ralph David Abernathy's wife. I took care of her, and I delivered her grandchildren. She gave me a beautiful inscription. So, yeah,
Wow.
and so that's an honor. So I mentioned them, but I also bring Black women today forward. Kismikia Corbett, Dr. Kismikia Corbett. She helped with the COVID vaccines that we now have. She was working with NIH, and also Brianna Ivy, who helped put the rover on Mars, the Perseverance rover. So we have women back then and all the way coming forward that are doing wonderful, wonderful things.
Amazing Black women. Amazing. Like, it's so much. So I really want to dig into this. This is your fourth book. Am I correct? Right?
Yeah, well, one I I have one I wrote one I wrote years ago, but that was like kind of a little funny bloopers book, so that I don't even count that one. And then in 2003, I wrote one about health and spirituality for Black women called Blessed Health.
Yes.
And that was combining. I in that book basically was, listen, we'll be in church all day. Many of us, not everybody, but the history of Black women. We're in church all day on Sunday and choir rehearsal Tuesday and Bible study Wednesday. And if you Pentecostal like I was for a while, you in prayer meeting on Friday and handing out tracts on Saturday, and you do it all over again. Yep. So we'll do that every day, every week, that schedule every week, but we may not take one day a year to go get our checkups done. So my thing was in that book to apply the same discipline that you do to your spiritual health, apply that to your physical health, because we need to save our own lives, and we're stewards of our physical body too, and we have to take care of ourselves, because without our health, you really don't have anything. So that was that book. And then I wrote a poetry book, Melodies of the Heart, Poems of Life and Love. That's an ebook now. It's kind of pretty, a little pretty cover.
Yes, I love it.
Some kind of way. Oh, there we go. But this one is major.
This is the most comprehensive, like, wellness book I've seen published in many years. I collect wellness books, and the last one I have is from 2012 from Black Women's Health Imperative. They put out Health First. And then I have Body and Soul by Linda Villarosa, who I just
Mhm.
interviewed for Under the Skin. So it's like there's Black women that have been writing about our health for years, and without them, I don't know where we would be. And this is like the icing on the cake. This is what we've needed for a long time. And so, what was your real like goal with this book? Who did you want it to reach the most?
I wanted to reach every Black woman in the entire United States of America and around the world because we need to pay attention to our health. And I think, and when you mentioned Linda Villarosa in Body and Soul, in fact, she actually contacted me. I think that book was in 1994.
Yeah.
I'm actually a medical advisor in that book from
Oh,
back
nice.
then.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. But the reason why I wrote this book is one, there had not been a physician authored book geared to Black women in a long, long time. And two, when I would look in other health books uh, written by white doctors, I rarely, if ever, even saw a paragraph about us, certainly not a chapter. And that concerned me because our numbers are so concerning as compared to other women, compared to other people. So I felt, we need to have a more focused reference book for our health. But yet at the same time, as a physician who's cared for women of all ethnicities, basically, I didn't want to leave any woman out. So I have pretty much throughout the book, if I give data, I have comparative data of Black, white, Hispanic, Asian, Native American women, and even some European women, and even African, because African health data is not the same as Black American health data. So I tried to include everybody, but I wanted Black women to pay attention because we need to, because we are lagging behind in areas that we really need to improve upon and in areas that we can improve upon. And so that's why I wrote this book. That I want us to pay attention to that. And I think with COVID, more people are paying attention to their health, or they're like, oh, maybe I need to pay attention to me. And also to the publishing world.
Mm.
They had been kind of reluctant in a way to publish books about Black health because there had been this feeling that Black people don't read books or Black people don't read health books. And that has been true to some degree. Okay, that's been true. But I am so grateful to my publisher, Sounds True, who's published Buddhist, Pima Chadron, and Maria Shriver, and Don Miguel Ruiz, and all these really notable thought leaders. And they saw the vision. They understood the messaging and the timing for the message because they heard about maternal mortality and they heard about diabetes and things where we're lagging behind. So God bless them for supporting a publication. And I just want to get the word out to Black women. We can improve our health.
Absolutely. Look, absolutely. And it's really interesting that you said that about the publishing world not believing that Black people want to read about our health. And it's like, maybe we don't want to read about it from y'all. Maybe that is the issue. I think that's really what it is, because at the same, when we think about books that are being published about health, most times people are getting health books in school who are published by white people.
Mm-hmm.
Who are controlling every aspect of our education system. So why would Black people want to read about health from white people who have actually destroyed our health? So it's like,
well, that's why I wanted to I wanted to be a Black physician, a Black female physician, writing about women's health, in particular Black women's health. So, and I'm pretty easy to talk to, and I wanted to make the book sound like I'm talking to you one-on-one, and so far that's what people say about the book, that they feel it's easy to read, it's relatable, and so far so good.
Absolutely, I can attest to both. Like, it's very easy to read, it's very relatable. It's funny at times, and it's crazy. I'm like, dang, these statistics, oh my god, like, it gets real deep. It gets real deep. So what was the most shocking thing that you have learned over the years, I guess, about our health. But then in writing this book, like, what did you, or I guess, what did you think people would find most shocking?
Oh, wow. I think when they look at some of the bar graphs that I put in, like for pregnancy related mortality, I think to the data for HIV/AIDS infections. I think when they really read about that and see the graphs, and I wanted to include more, but we had to limit, how many. But I think when you read the text and look at the graphs, I tell people, we sometimes when you're babies, you just maybe feed on milk, but we need some meat. And I
Mhm.
wanted to give some meat in this book for people to really focus on. So I think that makes mainly when you see some of the numbers in the bar graphs,
Yeah.
like Black maternal mortality, we were up here, but the other mortalities are lower down. Like, okay, we really are suffering in that category. We really are dying from cancer deaths more than other people. So it's the variance that I think will catch people's eye, and people may not even read a health book cover to cover. I mean, that would be great, but I
Mhm.
think maybe they may know of something going on and they may look to that chapter or whatever. But I think even if you just flip the pages, a graph might catch somebody's eye where they
Yes.
see the
Yeah.
bar, where they see the bar graph and like, oh wow, look at that. So that's one thing that I wanted to make sure I included.
Absolutely. Visuals are very important, especially in a book like this, because you can get lost in the information and like really not even want to be engaged. But having these images in here really helps like bring the
In fact,
point
like
home.
here's like you can't it may not show up too well. Da, 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 da. Okay, okay, that's the tall graph is Black women with pregnancy related. I'm going in the wrong direction. Pregnancy related mortality. Okay, compared to the other women. All right, so you can see there's a big difference there. Things like that. So
Yeah,
that I have things like that throughout the book.
yeah,
And one other thing that I mentioned, if I may, is I also, because some people ask me, why is this? Why are we lagging behind? Why are we
right,
so
right.
far off the chart? And oftentimes we hear that, um, well, it's because Blacks don't have access to medical care, or some Blacks don't have insurance, which is true in many instances. Okay, people may have lower paying jobs, or they may have jobs that don't provide health insurance. But the issue is, and this is what people need to grasp, is that even for women with access to medical care and for women with insurance, they still lag behind compared to other demographics. So,
Yeah,
what is that? Why is that? Okay, why is that? I mean, we're talking about responsible people that go get checkups and have insurance to take care of most of their bills. In the book, I address something that I thought of years ago, and that is I contend that what's missing in the discussion is what I call the societal stress and Black women's health, the rejection connection. The word now is the microaggressions, the little things that are thrust on us and
yeah,
said to us and that hurt us and stress us out. So I call it those psychosocial stressors
yes, yes,
that raises our cortisol, that raises our blood pressure, and that makes us maybe stress and eat more. So those psychosocial stressors, I feel, play a major role in affecting our physical health that can even lead us into these life-threatening diseases like hypertension and stroke and heart attack and obesity and diabetes and things like that. So I have a mock-up of a bigger chart that I created with those factors in it.
that's uh that's right along the lines of the research I've been reading recently from Dr. Geronimus with her study about the superwoman schema and how like that is creating so much stress in Black women that it's literally killing us from the inside out. It's that toxic stress
Mhm.
is absolutely contributing to our comorbidities, and it's I think it's
Oh,
even
absolutely. Absolutely. It really does. And again, none of the other authors I saw out there were addressing that or maybe even can figure that out, to analyze that. But even things within the race like colorism, I mentioned that in the book, the colorism thing, and how come when, and you may not remember, years ago there was a movie with Bo Derek when she had cornrows. She was a 10, but when black women have it, oh, that's not good. Um, Also, just overall negative media images of us. And then sometimes too, we have some chicks behaving badly, which kind of, even though that may be what they do, it kind of reflects on all of us, which it shouldn't. But sometimes that happens too. And also too, I am one, and this may be a generational thing. You know, we've gone from the Supremes and the Temptations and the Miracles and the Four Tops to singers with violent kind of names, or why. And I think that whole the lyrics are kind of misogynistic. There's a lot of anger, a lot of rage, and I know people are angry, but we've gone from Sugar Pie, Honey Bunch, and My Sharia Moore to black women be called all kinds of names in these songs that people are singing to. And I just think that, don't sing to me about calling me the B word. That no. So, and I think people need to realize that you're kind of, you're spewing that at me as a black woman, especially coming from a black man, and you're calling me a B, or you're calling me a C, or you're calling me a whatever.
This trauma is it's cyclical. It's going back and forth, and I mean, it starts with, some sisters calling brothers outside their name, or emasculating brothers and things like that. So it's just like it's a back and forth thing.
We've got to get back to love within the community. I mean,
exactly.
within each other. The communication is poor, and again, I think a lot of that has to do with the lyrics. I really think, before a man could say something to a woman, but it didn't have to be so crass in their face kind of thing, whereas now it's just kind of blunt. And so some of the romance is gone, some of the courting is not there like it should be or could be. And we need to get back to a more loving communication between our own members in the black community, I feel.
And I think it's really just a symptom of the larger issue, which is the societal stressors that you were talking about. Like these are all symptoms. Like society paints this picture of how men and women are supposed to be. Black people are trying to live up to this image of how white people envision how men and women are supposed to be. And now you're seeing us in an identity crisis, essentially. And so when you see these toxic lyrics, and you see men and women arguing on the street, black people not being able to stay together. You talk about that in the book, that black women are the most unpartnered,
unmarried. Yeah, they're the most unmarried demographic of everybody.
What am I supposed to do about that? You know what I mean? So it's like there's and to add to that, Diane Stewart's research on all the external forces that are attacking black families, that are attacking black family formation, black couples formation. There are so many things that are coming at us at all times. It's so hard to keep relationships.
And I think too, though, you need to realize too that a lot of times, I hear some young people say, well, what has, that's how they expect us to act. And so some people just go ahead and act that way. But no, you don't have to act that way. You don't have to do that. So I want people to just kind of, okay, if some people expect you to act, they may expect you to act that way, but that does not mean you have to act that way. You really can act in a way that's going to be more productive for your life and more productive for your family and productive for your husband or for your wife or for your children, so.
Absolutely. But, we have each one teach one. We have to be examples for each other.
Mm-hmm.
And yes. I think this book is a great example for the community on like tips on how you could just do things differently. If you aren't already pursuing a path of a healthier lifestyle, this is a great tool. I think we talked about how this is the first book in 20 years that's addressing any of this. So you're talking about a whole generation, my generation and Gen Z, not having any type of guide for black women or at all. Like,
Well, that's what
so
I wanted to do because not only is it a health book, and I want to make sure people do realize that too, because that's what like I have health, sex, and phenomenal living. Because yes, I cover health. I am a physician, a surgeon, so I cover health and not just gynecological health, but everything. I mean, I've got obesity and hypertension and heart disease and stroke and fibromyalgia and arthritis and multiple
and
sclerosis and
thyroid.
I have all that. I have basically everything head to toe. Eye conditions, lung conditions, musculoskeletal. So I have all that, okay, and cancers and everything. But I also get into sex, healthy sex, what to watch out for with sex, the enjoyment of sex,
Yep.
and not being abused by some things. And then I also get into relationship issues. So there's all that, and also some lifestyle, some financial issues. I'm not a financial planner, but again, I grew up poor. I had to sacrifice a lot. I really just had to keep my head down and stay focused. And I know there are a lot of distractions out there right now, but I give advice and some life lessons and things like that. So I really wanted to make it a comprehensive reference book for people to have head to toe and heart, physical heart and emotional heart and life tools. And that's why even I got two Black male psychologists to help endorse the book, Dr. Cedric Alexander and
Mhm.
also Dr. Jeff Gardier, who's done a lot of stuff with all kinds of stuff with Bravo and been on TV for years. And Dr. Alexander has too, because I wanted to bring them in. And also, the book is endorsed by Pauletta Washington, our queen of Hollywood. So I was happy to get her, and she's eager and wonderfully supportive. And Dr. Jen Ashton, who's Good Morning America chief medical correspondent. So I got two men on there, psychologists. With the relationship part, I said, let me bring somebody in to say, yeah, she knows what she's talking about. Are those relationship tips?
So, you know, yeah, you talked about the two male psychologists, but how come there's as little as there is for Black women out here, like as far as this goes, there's even less for Black men. So why do you think that is, as far as like our health literature, why there isn't as much for Black men as there is for Black women?
Well, for one, women are usually the guardians of health for the family. Okay. Truthfully, usually it's the wife that says, honey, you don't look good. Come on, we're going to the doctor. And he may fuss and complain, but she's like, no, we're going. Okay. So usually it is the woman who's kind of the health guardian. Men sometimes don't want to go to the doctor, or they may wait even longer than women do to go to the doctor. And also, too, now we do have a few more Black male physicians than we used to have eons ago. So I'm hoping that some doctors will write more about Black men's health in particular. Um, but yeah, there's a lack of all of this. Again, this book just came out the first in 20 years by a physician, a Black female physician author. And so yeah, hopefully we'll get some of the Black, and also there's a push on black men in white coats,
Mm-hmm.
okay, which is a group of Black doctors as physicians, and they're getting the word out too to try to address Black male health issues.
Well, let's hope these brothers end up writing a book, because the brothers need the books too. We all need the Black family needs this. Okay.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I try to endorse that and the family structure and family values, and because we're losing our kids too to crime. And actually, this is an interesting thing. Um, I start the book with medicine's top 5 affecting our lives, and that's heart
Yes.
disease, obesity and diabetes, cancer deaths, maternal mortality, and HIV/AIDS. Okay, but guess what? The 6th leading cause of death for Blacks is homicide, and it
Mm-hmm.
is not at all listed as a leading cause of death for other demographics. So we have some issues there that we need to face, and sometimes people don't want to see the dirty laundry because it ain't right and don't smell good, but we got to clean out that dirty laundry. But we are the 6th leading cause of death for Blacks is homicide, and is
Yeah.
not at all, homicide is not listed at all for any other demographic.
Yeah, it's sobering. It really is. It's just
Yeah,
like,
I mentioned that in there too. I mentioned that in there too.
yes, yes, and it's even higher for Black men. It's because that's the statistic for both of us. But it's even
Oh yeah,
it's
well, yeah.
higher for brothers, and it's like, and I'm seeing it, I'm living it every day. I work at a school in Southeast, and like kids are dying. Literally 2 students have died this year,
Mm.
and it's like normalized to them, and it's unfortunate, but
You see, to me, that gets back to, again, we've got to get back to a more intact family structure. I believe we really do need that. I mean, we've lost our way with that component of family, of Black community life.
and
And
it's been actively attacked on. It's been actively in like encroached on in various ways, and it shows up constantly every day. And you know, when you talk about the Black women and marriage chapter, could you talk a little bit more about that? We talked about that
we
also.
were talking about that before we got on this air. So I don't know what. No, you didn't go there, girl. No, you did not.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do you want me to say?
So, like I said, I'm a sister out here. I am 29. I am living proof. I just got my master's degree. I'm living in Washington D.C. This is arguably one of the most, well, it's probably one of the blackest areas of the country. Aside
Mhm.
from like Atlanta, like
Yeah, here, DC and Atlanta. Yeah.
DC and Atlanta. We it's real black over here, so it's not. There's no shortage of black men per se, but you know, Black women, as they get higher on the educational ladder, seem to be more and more single. So why?
Well, and I bring that up in the book too, because quite honestly, and it's good. I mean, I'm glad when I see Black men going on to college and get some going into graduate school and becoming, you know, high achievers. But there is a disparity educationally and as far as business entrepreneurship right now, still, and this has been trending in the last 20 years. Black women are exceeding Black men when it comes to high school graduation, college graduation, grad school graduation, and starting businesses. Okay. So there's a drop off. And again, we've got to get our Black men interested in doing things other than the 2 careers that people want to go into, which is sports or sing hip hop and rap. I want to be a rap star. I want to sing hip hop, or they want to play ball. But we need architects, we need engineers, we need scientists, we need astrophysicists, we need public service workers. We need health doctors and lawyers and educators and librarians. We need the world to continue, and it's got to continue with things other than sports and hip hop with misogynistic lyrics
We
in many
need
cases.
plumbers and carpenters and construction
We
men
need
and
all of that. We need all of that.
you know,
We need all. That's what makes the world go around. We need garbage collectors. We need people to stock the stores and the grocery stores and become store managers. Okay. We need principals in college. We need professors. We need you, brothers. We need these men to do things. Okay. So we've got to, these parents need to start guiding their children to see other ways and other things that they can be exposed to. Like here we had a talk a few weeks ago with the mayor, and I even talked with him briefly and handed his office work or something, because he's starting these midnight basketball camps or whatever. And I'm thinking, okay, because it's a thing to keep the kids off the street. I'm thinking, if you got 12-year-old kids, they don't need to be playing basketball at midnight. One, they should be in bed getting ready to go to school the next day. Okay. But we've got to teach them that there are other things they can go into. Why not some even just some classes with Legos and learn how to be an architect and structure things and balance things out, and things like that. So we can guide these young kids into other things. We just have to do it. We have to do it. And we can't wait for the white person or anyone else to do that. Because other people come to this country, and really, in a way, this is sad to say, a lot of them are exceeding Blacks as far as some educational achievements, Black men in particular. Again, Black women are really, unfortunately, they're fortunately for Black women, but the equity is the men are not where. And so what's happening is you have these high achieving black women, which sometimes intimidates some men. And so a lot of black women are kind of left alone, left by themselves, or they have to look elsewhere.
Or they're trying, or like we discussed, there are brothers out here who are trying to live up to white supremacist standards of patriarchy and say that I can't support a wife because I don't have my stuff together. I don't have the job with 7 figures because now 6 figures ain't enough. Like this is the standard now that brothers think they have to live up to even attempt to have a relationship.
And
So
then
it's like,
also, as we discussed before we go, is that also too sometimes black men may leave us behind when they start making the big money. You know, they kind of leave us behind. So we just have to, we've got to get back to some love with one to another within the black community so we can have more black family structure and have children that are raised by their parents and are guided into things that are going to better the community and improve our health, improve our community, improve our safety, improve our communication one to another. We need to get back to some structure in some ways.
absolutely. And I mean, as far as speaking of improving communication, this is a hot take, and uh, it's it's
Watch out now! Watch out! Watch out!
it's a lot because it is something that I've actually encountered in my work. I'm a social worker, and so I'll just say this: been I've worked in case management before, and I've worked with um, Black women who have contracted HIV from their seemingly heterosexual partners, but end up finding out that their partner wasn't heterosexual and was not being faithful to them and was not being faithful to them with another man. And so I didn't know that still happened, like in real life. I thought this was you read about all these statistics all the time and you're like, there's no way that this actually still happens. And like, until I met this woman, I was like, wow, this still like, I did not know this still happens in this way, in this particular way. And particularly because, I feel like now we have more space to have conversations and say like, hey, this is how I identify. And if you're okay with this, then you should know that this is how I identify. But for this to have become such a public health issue, specifically for heterosexual Black women,
Mm-hmm.
which it's very alarming to me. Like
And it should be. In fact, I was flipping for the page. As one of my chapters, it may not show well. I have you can't really read the data in the through the screen, but those bars there, okay. I'm on page 69, ironically. It turned out to be that way. Anyway, I talk about, and this is a key factor, and I'm glad you brought this up, because Black women are still the fastest growing demographic of new HIV and AIDS cases. And the reason for that is purely hetero Black females are having sex with high risk partners. In particular, the high risk partners are, for the most part, men who are on the down low, as we say. Okay, they go both ways. And like you're saying, some people now may feel, people are more into, well, this is how I roll, and they just put it out there. And truthfully, the data has shown that white guys, they will tell their partners, look, I go both ways, take it or leave it. Okay. And that way, at least the woman knows what she's dealing with. But that's not so much the case in the Black community. And so a lot of purely hetero Black females who are engaging in sex with high risk men, in particular, men who are on the down low, they don't tell the woman, look, I roll both ways, take it or leave it, whatever. If they don't know, they're thinking the man is purely hetero and he's not. and he is infecting the women with HIV/AIDS. And also, HIV/AIDS is also associated with higher rates of syphilis and gonorrhea. Okay, so it's all a big old mess going on right there. And that's what people need to, you need to be in the back. I have a thing about guard your garden. Just, you got to be careful who you letting into your secret garden, because, check it out, and know who you're dealing with, get to know who this person. Don't just, the male appendage, there are millions of them around. So you don't just have to jump on everyone that comes along. Okay. You need to just kind of take your time and guard your garden, take care of your health, and know who you're dealing with. And also too, there are a lot of black men in prison, and there's homosexuality going on in the prisons, and they may not even feel that they're purely homosexual men, but in prison they do what they got to do, and then they come out and they get with a woman, and next thing you know, the woman may have AIDS. So you've got to be very careful with your partner selection, your sexual intimate selection of your partner, because that's how the majority of hetero black women are getting HIV/AIDS, because they're engaging with men on the down low.
And that really speaks to the communication issue we discussed earlier, because there's a communication issue going on between black women and black men.
Yeah, well, that needs to be said. I mean, the guys need to say,
something is happening where we don't feel comfortable sharing things with each other, and now people are contracting illnesses. Like, this is like, and this is 30 years down the line. Like, this has been going on for a long time.
Well, it's like, years ago, people didn't want to say if they had herpes. I think that, and herpes is still something that's still out there. I mean, people can still get herpes, and it's a lifelong infection. We don't have a cure for it. We can get it under control with medication, or, people can take something every day to kind of keep it suppressed. Or once they have it, if they feel a flare, they can take some medication to kind of, put it back, make it quiet again. But before, people didn't want to say, look, I have herpes. But now that people, I think, are more open about that. But a lot of people may not, the men may not say that that they're bisexual, and they front like they are hetero, but they really are bi.
Because there's so much rampant homophobia in our community. I mean, like, it's pretty bad. And, they clearly don't feel comfortable enough to say this. And to the point that they're risking lives to do what they need to do.
Yeah, well, people need to, if you're going to live that lifestyle, then you need to be straight up about telling someone that especially if you're going to engage with someone who's not in that lifestyle. If you're bi, don't front to this woman that you're straight, because you're putting her health at risk with a disease that, HIV is more controlled now than it was, years ago when Magic first came out and stuff like that. So, there are more medications now, but, if men are in that lifestyle, then they need to be straight up with the woman to let them know that that's where they're at, so that the woman can make an informed decision about what she wants to do about her body, about what's entering her body.
Absolutely. Now, I do have a comment from the audience. Ebbs J said, I personally believe the Black community in general struggles with open and healthy discussion about sexuality, not just Black men. How do you, how do we feel about that?
Wait, say that again?
So she said, they said, I personally believe that the Black community in general struggles with open and healthy discussion about sexuality, not just Black men.
Okay, well, about sexuality. I think one thing too, I think when it comes to the whole sex discussion, in fact, when I wrote my book in 2003 about health and spirituality, I started getting invitations to speak publicly. And I remember one meeting planner, she said, oh, do you think you could talk to us about sex? She kind of whispered sex. I'll never forget that. I was like, yeah, sure I can. We can talk about it. But I think, and again, this gets back to maybe a lot of us for our religious upbringing, sex was something you just didn't talk about. Your parents didn't talk about, at least from my generation, that didn't happen. I think people, maybe your age parents, might have been more open about it, talking about sex or sexual relationships. Now, today, it seems like anybody's talking about everything. It's just, everyone's doing whatever they want to do. Um, but I think there needs to be some healthy discussions about sex, and also too, I encourage women to realize that sex isn't only for the person you're with; it's for you as a woman to enjoy too. It's a natural instinct, just like hunger and thirst and sleep. Those are natural parts of who we are. We're emotional beings. We are spiritual beings in many cases. Many women have maternal instincts. Maybe not everybody, but most of us have maternal instincts. But we also have a sexual side to us, and that's not to be ignored. It is part of our makeup. But again, with that, you do have to look at the risks you're facing when you engage, and that's why it's not advisable to engage just recklessly and promiscuously, because you can affect your health. You can affect, for women, if you're having sex with someone and he's got, a few more germs than what you want, you can get chlamydia, you can get all kinds of other, the gonorrhea. All that stuff can scar your fallopian tubes, which could affect your fertility. You may not be able to conceive. So there are things like that, that you do have to guard your garden, as I say. You have to be careful with that.
Absolutely. I think when they give you that one sex talk that they give every high schooler, it's way too late. And because a lot of these kids are probably having sex in middle school.
They're having sex early, and I've heard stories of trains being done in the men's bathroom where the boys are lined up and the girls are kind of just going down the row, if you know what I mean. And so parents need to have wholesome discussions, open discussions with their children, talk to maybe school counselors, and try to have a healthy, because right now, this social media world, if you don't tell it to them in a proper way, in an informed way, in a loving way, they're going to get it, some information, and it may not be the information they need to get, and they're going to get it from online, they're going to get it from social media, they're going to get it from some friend, saying, hey, let's try this, did you hear so and so, let's experiment. And then that's causing a problem. And one other thing about family, we're seeing some HIV and AIDS in 13 and 14-year-old boys. And the reason for that is, and y'all may not want to hear this, is sometimes when we have women who have children and they have like one boyfriend after another boyfriend coming into the home, some men are having sex with these young boys and giving them HIV. HIV AIDS in 13, 14-year-old boys. And it's from serial boyfriends that are coming into the single mother's home. She may be out working one or two jobs or more because she's by herself. She's got to take care of 2 or 3 kids. The guy may be sitting home taking care of it, and things are happening. So again, ladies and gentlemen, take care of your health, take care of your family, and realize there's a bigger picture, and we all need to do what we need to do to make our personal bodies whole, make our spirits whole, make our family structure whole, make our community whole.
How does one get that kind of data? Like, how are we figuring
research out well, when the kids come in with infections and things like that, and then finally it's revealed that there's been some molestation or something like that, then it's slowly being collected. It's slowly being collected. Yeah.
So that's enough that this is like becoming a thing.
It's been happening. It's just people just kind of don't want to talk about this topic, but it needs to be talked about. You can't act like I have asthma. I got asthma when I was 40, and I kind of did this thing. I don't have asthma. I'm not claiming that. That whole Christian, I'm not going to claim that. But you know what? My name is Dr. Melody McCloud, and I am an asthmatic. I have asthma. I can't act like it ain't happening because I could die. I mean, you get asthma, you get a bad asthma attack, you could be out of here like that. So if I'm not taking responsibility for my asthma,
Right.
I keep my medicine stocked up. I haven't had an asthma attack in a long, long time, but I know what triggers me. If I get a cold,
Right.
I'm likely. So I know what triggers me. Okay, so I have to be responsible. Okay, I have this, and I know what I need to do to keep that under control. So we can't act like stuff ain't happening in
Right.
front of us. And this is happening, people. I'm
Right.
just telling you, this is happening, and we can't turn a blind eye because well, we don't want to talk about that, because Johnny wants to do what he wants to do, and we just have to. No, we have issues that we need to really look at from a health standpoint and a public health standpoint, a public safety standpoint, and a community standpoint.
Absolutely. And that old adage of, let's not talk, keep all our business to ourselves. We gotta stop. We gotta stop because it's literally killing people. It's killing people. Our
Yeah, and in the families can, and the churches, we can go to church and have a hallelujah time, but we got some serious stuff we need to deal with. Okay. And
absolutely.
also too in the book I do have and this is kind of
Yes,
a good
mental
thing.
health.
Those
Talked about.
checklists, I have some checklists for family history.
Oh yes, yes. I actually did that checklist. I was like, wow.
Well, yeah, because it's important to kind of know, what your family history is, like who has what, so you can see maybe where what risk are you facing in the beginning. And then at the back of the book, I actually have a thing where you can check off some things about yourself, kind of do a personal health inventory, just to see where you stand, and take it to your doctor or discuss it. And also, too, ladies, we may spend money on our hair and our nails and all that. So don't tell me that you don't have money to go to the doctor, or one, to get a little $25 book, or two, to go to the doctor one day a year. How much money we pay on hair stuff from the Korean store, okay, buying hair products, or we got eyelashes out to here, or nails, we get our nails done and all that. Yes, take care of yourself and groom yourself and all that, but also take you have some money to get a $25 reference book, or to go to the doctor too one day a year and get a checkup and check on your physical health.
Absolutely.
We can do this. That's why I put this. I've got this. This is your I've got this guide to health, sex, and from you can do this. We've got this. We can do it. We can do it.
Absolutely. We can definitely do it. So, well, we can do it, and racism needs to chill out. But that's
Well,
another.
that's a whole nother. Yeah, well, yeah, we still deal. All the more reason, we have racism to deal with, and that's really not going away. So don't be
Right.
expecting the white man to be
Listen,
correcting.
this is what we can do. And so,
Yeah, I mean, because if people keep looking for the white man, he's gonna, no, no, no. It's not you. Truthfully, it's not the white man's fault that one, your kid is out in the street at 12 o'clock at night shooting up the gang store. It's not the white man's fault that you are not within yourself. Make use of some health fairs that are going on in your community. There are services out there, but we have to pay attention to those and make use. If you can't afford the doctor, again, there are mobile mammogram units going around sometimes. Check with your Department of Community Health, and they can guide you someplace to get some health care. There are facilities out there, but with more and more Black women achieving and succeeding, again, if we can afford the things that we afford, okay, we can afford a reference book to last you a long time. We can afford a doctor's visit to just get ourselves checked, and we can afford to get our kids into swim classes or go to some kind of camp where they're learning something, to build, to become architects or scientists and things like we can do that. I know we can. I know we can. I know we can.
absolutely. And there are, we are doing it. We are
We
doing it.
are.
There's more to be done at the same time. There's like,
Yeah, no, we are. I mean, if you look at what black women really are, and I talk about, we really are doing wonderful, wonderful things. And also, too, we need to stop this crab barrel thing of trying to keep each other down. And oh, you can't be getting ahead of me. And no. We got enough to deal with other folk on us. We need to come together. Okay, we need to be supportive one to another. No backbiting, no catty shenanigans, and we need to be supportive of each other.
absolutely. And so I feel like we've covered a lot, but um, if you have any last things you would want to share to the audience, like um, major major takeaway that you want people who are considering to get this book to know?
Well, one, I want the considering to be into it. Yes, I will get the book because, again, I really, honestly, again, publishers have been reluctant to publish a book about our health, and not just because I wrote it, but I'm just saying because sounds true. Again, they believe in the timing of this message. They believe that Black women need this message. And we need to show them, God bless them, and other people that yes, we will read about our health. Yes, we do care about our health, and we will. So I ask you, if you're, I ask you to put the word out there about it. And yes, and then let's get people to read the book. But in the back of the book, I have four kind of takeaways. And one of them I already told you, and they are guard your garden, be well read, go on and get your education, study, learn, broaden your horizons. Okay, so guard your garden, be well read, tend that body. Yes, you can do your outside grooming and all that, but make sure you tending to your insides too. Okay, because
Right.
what don't make, you can have the fanciest looking car on the outside, but if the transmission and the sludge and all that and the oil is dirty, the car, it's not a good car. Okay, it could be all decked out with whatever, but you need the engine to be working and the motor clean and things like that. So guard your garden, be well read, tend that body, and sweat that head. Exercise is good for you. Cut downs on obesity and diabetes and cancer deaths, things like that. So, and it's good to keep the brain moving. So those are my thing. Guard your garden, be well read, tend that body, and sweat that head. And we got shampoo, so don't be telling me I can't go swimming because I don't want to mess up my hair. That's why we got shampoo and flat irons. Or if you want to do the little natural thing, groom your hair. Don't look like you don't know how to groom your hair. That's the other thing. Now we're getting a little too wild now. Okay, seriously. You still want to dress how you want to be treated. Dress how you want to be treated and present yourself in a positive way. So that's my thing. Guard your garden, be well read, tend that body, and sweat that head.
I'm gonna take that sweat that head to heart because I definitely need to work out more. So I definitely need to work out more. I can definitely agree with that. Thank you so much
Oh,
for
this has been great. Thank you for having me.
this. Is I love this book. It came out amazing. Like especially see from like the art copy to like the finished product. It's like fantastic. So
Yeah, I'm very pleased with how they just did it. I really, I mean, I can't praise the publisher enough with how beautiful they just did beautiful things, and just wonderful things. And it's just colorful and pretty and flowers and all kinds of nice, and the coloration of the charts and stuff like that to just make it interesting. It's not a boring read. I think you'll find it
no,
to be
definitely not a boring read. It's a page turner, low key.
especially the relationships and the sex part and all that, and the marriage part that we were talking about before I came.
Y'all don't know. It goes down in this book. I want to let y'all know it goes down in this book. So please get a copy.
Hey, I'm with you. I'm with you.
We have it right now available on sankofa.com. It's available in our store as well. So if you live in DC, stop by and get a book. If you're down at ATL, support us online. Sankofa.com. Thank you so much, Dr. Melody. I really appreciate you taking the time out. And thank you for writing this book.
It was my pleasure. It was a lot of work. I wrote it during COVID, and it was that whole mental, trying to stay focused, and then data kept changing because COVID kept changing stuff, and medicine changes every day.
Right.
So I wrote this book really like 2.5, 3 times, really, because the data kept changing and changing. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. But I really, of all the books I've written, I'm most proud of this one. And my heart and soul is in this, and I honor Black women pioneers. And again, the publisher did a great job, and I have great people who endorsed it. So, and I just hope everybody will read it, get a copy of it, tell your friends, neighbors, sorors, church ladies, and fellas, if you're listening, your wives, your mistresses, your whatever. Okay. Healthy, healthy, but in a healthy, you're healthy. No mistresses. I was just joking about that.
Listen, we're nowadays we're poly, so they're well at least telling people what we doing. So some of us, I guess, I don't know, like maybe I don't, like
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. I enjoyed this. I enjoyed this session a lot. Hope you did too.
yes, absolutely. Now I do have one. There's a comment in here asking if you would share a poem with us from your older book. Would
Oh
you
my
be
goodness.
that?
Woo! Now that wasn't expecting that. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna find one that's kind of short, maybe. Well, actually, I have one in here talking about the whole skin color about
Oh, go
skull.
right ahead. That's a
It's um. Oh my. Okay. Uh, all right. I'll try to do this one real quick. It is um. Like I got so many. There's like 100 poems in here, but okay. Okay. This is about color. Okay. All right. It's entitled Nature Proves It True. Nature Proves It True. See a pattern here, my brother? My white brother, too. Sit a while, listen up. Let me share some truth with you. White bread, white rice, for sure they've been around, but evidence confirms the better choice is brown. Darker chocolate surely has more antioxidants. White chocolate protects you none. It's just calories misspent. The butterflies that fly around, they come in different hues. For sure, the ones with deeper shades, more beauty they imbue. The darker the berry, the sweeter the juice. For years, you've heard this said. To look like me, whites seek the sun and burn on tanning beds. If Picasso and Nikita painted every canvas pale, artists using deeper shades would certainly prevail. And a garden is called beautiful when it's rich in hue. So now, my friend, I must ask this question just for you. Yes, bro, the darker the better. Nature proves it true. So why, when it comes to skin, you want no dark near you?
mm.
Why, when it comes to skin, dark is no longer good? Answer this, I beg of you. Answer if you would. So that's about skin color and how come color is beautiful for every other way. But even with white, white folks, we love color. But yet, why is it because we have darker skin, we are not?
Mm.
And this is just a real quick one about poetry. It's one, the words of a poet.
Mm.
Of nature, of love, of souls apart, a poet's words come from the heart. Of stories lived or stories heard, expressions of hope or goals deferred, a rich cash or therapy cheap to make one laugh or make one weep.
Mm.
Visions of life or secret dreams, the world as it is or as it seems. The words of a poet when one writes are midnight truths to the soul's delight.
Mm. Oh, I love your style. It's so like you have such a voice. I really like
And not all my poems rhyme. I mean, I have some poems that don't rhyme. Here's one, Kiss Me Again. This is like, there were 4 poems after couples were fighting. And then he's like, leave me alone, woman. And then she's saying something. I finally see, and then at the end, it's like, kiss me again. So that's the whole collection of poems. But at the end, the kiss me again, despite the tears I cry
Mm.
and the look in your eyes, I believe once more we'll laugh, we'll smile, and I live for the day you kiss me again.
Mm.
So anyway, there's a bunch in there.
Wow. But man, is this still in
Maybe
print?
April is National Poetry Month. Maybe we can have a poetry reading.
No, listen. I'm good for finding a book,
I
okay?
have one up. Sometimes I am an angry black woman. That's a long poem. I tried to give that to Tyler Perry when he had Diary of a Mad Black Woman, but I was going to give it to him for some lyrics, but he didn't take it. But that's all right.
that that's hilarious.
Anyway, but no, yeah, I like poetry. I haven't written in a while, but I like writing
I've
poetry.
noticed that you're very creative. Like you're not your average doctor. You know,
Well,
like
that's weird because I really am very scientific, but I think I'm learning to be a little more creative.
and the fact
I've gotten to be a little bit more creative.
like, and the fact that you've always included spirituality in your practice too, like that.
Mhm.
That to me is so it. You really don't see that a lot with many doctors. Like, uh,
Well, I've prayed for many a patient. I mean, I mean, and not to put my faith out onto people, but if I know it's a comfortable space, and I mean, I've definitely prayed for, and patients like to know, they kind of like to know where their doctor's coming from. So again, it's not something that I project onto people or push onto people, but from just listening to people, and if it's something that we need to pray about, then we pray about it.
absolutely. And that's how that's the intersectionality right there. Like that's what we need. We need all of it. We need the prayer and the medicine
Yeah, and
and
the
the
medicine, and also make use of your doctors. I mean, I know there've been some things before with Tuskegee and all that kind of stuff, but you know what? There are more of us now. Okay, and we're here to help you. We've studied long and hard and sacrificed years of our life, and put our lives on hold in order to add more physicians into the physician workforce, so that people will feel that they have a safe place to go to. So if we can pray about this and pray about that, but let a doctor be part of your healing plan. God put us here to be helpers one to another, and that includes your doctor and your
absolutely.
nurse. Okay, so incorporate us in your healing plan. We're not your enemy. We're not the police. I mean, there are some infections that we need to report to the health board. Okay, but we're here to make your doctor include us in your healing plan. Okay, we're part of the package to help you live a healthier lifestyle.
Thank you so much. Oh, but
Thank you for having me. This was great.
this was so great. I'm so happy. Please, y'all, buy the book. Buy the book. It's great. It's really great.
Thank you.
And we're gonna sign out. And you got much praise for the poem. Someone, the sister who asked you to read it said, "What a fun but insightful poem," and she said it was so good.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I got poems in there about every life and love and family and death and all kinds of stuff. It's a hundred. And actually, I included some poems from a man named Leo Richards. He was like a stepfather to me, and some of his poems are in the anthology of Langston Hughes. As a matter of fact, Leo was a wonderful poet. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think we have some books by him now.
So yeah, yeah. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah. Good night, y'all. Thank y'all for coming out.